Now, your hosts, Vicki Hyman and Erin Medley.
Hello and welcome to Remote Possibilities. I am Erin Medley here with Vicki Hyman. Vicki.
Hi.
Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Remote Podcast, at @E_meds, and at Vicki Hy, VICKIHY. Now, before we start talking about TV, which is why we're here.
Yes.
Vicki, you and I need to discuss our mutual love for hamsas.
Does anybody out there know what hamsas are?
I don't know. Probably not.
Hamsas? Okay.
Hamsas?
Hamsas? I don't know. Well, there are a symbol in the Middle East of peace. It is the upside down hand, and I've been obsessed with them for more than 20 years. I think it dates back to my husband and I's honeymoon trip to Morocco, where we saw a lot of them and we bought a lot of them. We've been collecting them ever since. But now it's not just like the Middle Eastern symbol. It's really like any hand at all. So we collect a lot of milagros from Mexico. So I sent her a picture once. I saw that Erin has one somewhere on her body. Where on your body and how big is it? I couldn't tell how big it was.
Oh my gosh. So guys, I am a total prude about most things, but I love tattoos. So I got my 7th tattoo. It's on my rib cage. And it's not really that big. I mean, I have a small hand, so it's smaller than my hand. It just looks big in the photo.
It's still, I mean, if it's small in your hand, it's still big though. That's a big thing. Okay.
But when I have my arm down, you can't see it. So it's not that big.
Okay. All right. Although I don't usually see you topless. So, you know.
That's the other podcast. Okay. That's not this one.
I had no idea you had 7 tattoos.
I do. I'm going for like 10 over my lifetime. We'll see.
Okay, so you're having one for every decade then?
Yeah. Yes, because I'm going to live until I'm 100. Wouldn't that be great for you guys? All right, so let's get to TV here. So many big TV things to talk about. I'm going to go from like least important to most important. Least important right now, the rumor swirling that Danielle Staub is returning to Real Housewives of New Jersey. Unconfirmed. Right?
Absolutely unconfirmed.
Okay. I mean, that's really all we need to share. I mean, it seems likely. It
seems likely. She's been making a huge push. You know, we text each other occasionally.
Really?
Yes. She can't confirm anything. But of course, she's not able to confirm anything if she is on the show. And she wouldn't want to not confirm it if she wasn't on the show, because then people wouldn't still be talking about her. So.
Which we know is of utmost importance.
Yes, of course.
Well, when Vicki knows, that's when she'll let us know. I mean, if Vicki doesn't say it, I don't believe it anyway.
Okay, thank you.
All right. In our middle most important news area is The Good Fight, which is the spinoff from The Good Wife, premiered on CBS last Sunday, although it will live permanently on CBS All Access, which is their online streaming platform. The ratings were not great. They weren't terrible for The Good Fight. 7.16 million total viewership, which was the 3rd most watched show of the night, behind 60 Minutes and NCIS Los Angeles, because, you know.
Wow.
Duh, of course.
So CBS did have a good night.
They did have a good night. But in the key demo, it only pulled in 0.7 rating, which is like 700,000, right?
Yeah, that's really bad. So everybody who was watching it was basically dead?
Right. You know, people that typically watch CBS.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very interesting to use this show as like sort of like to get people to go to their streaming thing, because if it skews older, and it's gonna skew older, and it is very good. I really did enjoy it. It was very good, but I think it is going to skew older because in part it is about a woman, Christine Baranski, Diane. What is Diane's last name?
Lockhart.
Diane Lockhart, who has to start all over again after there's a Ponzi-like scheme that totally takes away all of her money by an old friend of hers, whose daughter she is the godmother of, and who is also her protege in her law firm that she'd already announced she's retiring from, and they won't take her back. Ageism, sexism, what have you.
So many things.
So, I mean, it already skews kind of old. It also is one of the most diverse shows, I think, certainly on CBS. On television, I mean, is there like a white lead man on it at all? I don't think so.
No, not really.
Yeah. So I mean, I just think it's
because you forget to mention that Diane winds up at a law firm,
Yes.
at a predominantly African American law firm.
Yeah,
Like
with
she's
led by Delroy Lindo, and we see the return of is it
Cush Jumbo.
Cush Jumbo,
Mhm.
as Luca. So I mean, it's setting it up for, I think, a really interesting show, but I do think that it's not going to grab people very much. So I don't see why people would be taking it over to CBS and signing up for CBS. I mean, something like Star Trek, the Star Trek reboot, I can see that, which by the way got delayed, I think, again. And it's not coming until later this year. Like maybe that is something that would like make people interested in CBS All Access. This one, I don't know.
I personally don't understand CBS All Access from a network perspective. I just don't think people want to pay for what they're offering. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. If that's the case, then start a production company and just like distribute the product to Netflix or Amazon, which people are already paying for, and getting like a wealth of other programming. Whereas with CBS All Access, it's so limiting. Like the things that they're offering are just not enticing enough to want to pay another, what is it, like $5.99 a month? Like I don't think so. Although, go ahead.
No, I was saying we talked, I think, last week about peak TV and like when is it going to end? There's too much to watch, and I think maybe this is one of the experiments they're throwing out there and seeing if it sticks. And worst comes to worst, it's not going to, and maybe they could end up bringing this back to CBS if it does well enough. So,
well, that's what I was going to say, because I would be really I'm not going to watch more than 2 episodes because that's all available to the press, and I'm not signing up for CBS All Access. However, The Good Fight is a really good show. You know, I was a huge fan of The Good Wife, and I would say The Good Fight is like peak Good Wife.
Did you see the second episode yet?
I did.
Okay, so I'm interested. Like, I couldn't tell, the pilot sets up a lot of stuff, and does it go back to here's the sort of kooky court case of the week? And I mean, like, how is it going to play out like The Good Wife played out? Because if it does, not so interested in it.
So I will say in the second episode, you do see some familiar faces, like a defense attorney, or was she the prosecutor? I don't remember, but another attorney and a judge who are both familiar faces from The Good Wife. And the case is a little kooky, but like the tone is just slightly different, just like a little different. So you still feel like you're in this world, this new world of The Good Fight. So
it just felt like from the first episode, a little more like high end, I have to say, a little more serious. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, I like The Good Wife. I didn't watch it week in and week out, but I thought it was pretty good. And I really, really liked the first episode, although Rose Leslie's accent, not so good.
My gosh.
Not so good.
We're going to talk about the accent on another show later. But I will say Rose Leslie, if she is going to play an American, really needs to work on an accent. It is not the worst, because the accent in the show we're talking about later is the worst. But it's pretty bad. And her mom is played by Bernadette Peters on the show, which is like any show with Bernadette Peters, you have me at hello. So
but do you watch Mozart in the Jungle?
I've watched it, but when I watched it, she wasn't on it. So it must have been like I watched 1 episode or something.
Okay. You should watch it.
We'll see. So The Good Fight, we highly recommend it. Who knows how long it'll be around. And it's good, but not good enough for All Access. All right. And our last bit of important news, and we talked about this before the show, producer Alyssa is behind on the times and did not watch the episode of This Is Us that aired on Tuesday night. So she's going to have to tune out. And if you haven't watched it, I would also recommend you just turn us down for a minute. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. So on last night's episode of This Is Us, Randall and William go on a road trip to Memphis. One last hurrah. And then William dies. I mean,
I was
devastating.
I mean, like, you knew it was coming.
Of course.
And I'm actually, as much as I love the character, and hopefully we'll see him like we see Milo Ventimiglia, you don't know, although he didn't have the background, he wasn't there when the kids were young, but maybe we'll see a little bit more of him. But I was kind of happy that NBC didn't drag it out. Didn't want to
yes.
be like, I mean, the man is in late stage cancer. He's not taking his chemo anymore. And so I gotta say, kind of like kudos for like getting offing this beloved, wonderful character who added so much texture to the show. I loved him. I loved
Ron Cephas Jones from Paterson, New Jersey. What? Represent.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. And I also love the fact it was a bottle episode. You didn't see anybody, and like we didn't see the subplots of the ones who are already kind of silly to begin with and would seem even sillier if you put them into the show.
And another stellar performance from Sterling K. Brown, even though, I mean, he wasn't the star of this episode per se, but I mean, he did a great job as always. And even though last week I was kind of down on This Is Us, I'm not saying I'm back on board, but I will say that was a great hour of television. I bawled like a baby at the end. Vicki and I have both talked about losing our parents. My mom died of cancer. I was just like, oh my God, I don't know if I can take it. It was so good.
I don't believe in an afterlife. I believe that when you die, you are dead. But I am such a sucker for seeing people who die, like seeing their beloved person and embracing them. I mean, like it kills me every time when he saw his mother, and I was like, oh. I mean, I thought it was also really wonderful how she did have like maybe like I don't know 6 minutes of screen time altogether. But I think they're just able. They find these actors and they're able to just create such. You just feel who they are.
Right.
So I really felt that for the mother.
Crazy. I mean, such a good episode. I think that's the episode they should submit for Emmy consideration, although it doesn't, half of the cast isn't in it. But
that's true.
Yeah, at least maybe Ron Cephas Jones will submit for supporting or something, or guest. Would he be a guest, or is he?
No, I think he's
billed, right?
Supporting, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Well, This Is Us. We'll see what happens in future episodides.
You can come back now, Alyssa. Although I already kind of ruined it for her at the beginning of our conversation. Whoops.
Uh-oh.
Hey.
All right. So
Alyssa's back.
Producer Alyssa is back on board, and you guys can turn your podcast back up. All right, so let's talk about a show that it might as well be dead to me, like at this point, because it is so utterly ridiculous.
Did you watch Sunday's episode, right?
I did. We were talking about The Walking Dead, and I'm really curious to hear what other people think about this. Please tweet us at Remote Podcast, at @E_meds, or at Vicki Hy, VICKIHY, because I personally think this season of The Walking Dead has been the absolute worst.
Well, yes, the whole season. I mean, you're obviously talking about, yes. Yeah, I mean, I think that the 2 episodes that came back haven't been quite as bad as the Negan-heavy first part of the season, although last night was like, I mean, Sunday night, I'm sorry. Okay, I have to say, one of the reasons why I watched The Walking Dead, and I would probably prefer Walking Dead if it was on Nat Geo and it was an actual documentary about the zombie apocalypse. I am fascinated by one of the things I do like about this particular season, even if it's not executed well, is that they're introducing us to the different societies that have formed. You had the people by the bay, then you had these random Thunderdome trash people.
Oh my God.
Okay. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. And they have it was exactly what I thought at the end of the first episode when Rick starts smiling. I was like, okay, these are people that Rick can use, that he can these are a well-trained fighting force.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, how long ago did the zombie apocalypse happen? Are we talking 3-4 years at this point?
Maybe
5 years. Okay.
No, not even 5, because look, our judge of time is Judith.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so 3-4 years tops. Although we don't see that much anymore. Okay, so you remember Revolution? Was it Revolution, the one that was
with the lights and electricity and stuff?
Electricity. Okay, so it's civilization has to reset itself, and it was I think a couple of 100 years since that had happened, and so they talk differently, they walk differently, they dress differently, whatever. This is 3 years since the apocalypse, and these people in the trash paradise suddenly have this entire new way of speaking. How long did it take them to choreograph that little circle walking thing they did? It's okay guys, this is what we're doing today. We're not looking for food, we're not going to kill zombies, we're going to choreograph how we're going to walk around people who show up at our trash heap. And it just makes no sense. So ridiculous. And I have to admit, like, they had like an awesome zombie. I love the Thunderdome zombie. But then it was like 2 minutes long, and Miss Shawn had to yell at Rick, use the walls, and so he's able to use the walls and bury the guy in trash, and that was over. Poor Winslow.
I would like.
There's like interesting stuff that could be done here, but it's stupid. The way it is done, it is just executed so poorly.
I would first of all like someone to give Vicki CPR before she passes out. She is like at a level 15 irritated right now. Also, I apologize if she's screaming in your ear. Vicki, I completely agree with you. Everything about this episode irritated me. I did not like the Thunderdome zombie. I thought that was ridiculous. Okay. Here's my problem. And I remember I came to The Walking Dead late. I binged it over the summer so I could catch up for season. What are we? 6? 6, right?
6, I think.
7? All right, whatever. So I was going into it full steam ahead momentum. That first episode with Negan happened. I was like, well, that was dumb. Then Negan just irritated the crap out of me for the next like 5 or 6 episodes. And this is coming from a person who loves Jeffrey Dean Morgan, but I cannot stand the character of Negan.
Denny. You love Denny.
No. I like the guy on The Good Wife. Like much more.
Oh, the
than
investigator
Denny.
from New Jersey. Okay,
yeah,
really?
Yeah.
But Denny was the perfect man, except for the fact that he died.
No. Spoiler alert. Anyway.
7-year-old spoiler from Grey's Anatomy. Okay.
What I think the problem is with The Walking Dead is that they've gone too comic booky. Like, to me, in this season, this to me has been the most, like, I know it's based on a comic book, but there was always some sort of like humanity and like realness to it where it didn't feel like if you didn't know a comic book existed and you watched the first 5 seasons of The Walking Dead, you'd be like, all right, I get it. There's zombies. That's weird. But like otherwise it's just like a normal show. Whereas this season, I feel like I could sketch out, if I could draw, I could sketch out like every episode into a comic. Like it's too over the top. It's not based in reality anymore for me. And I think that's part of the reason why I don't like it. Like no person walks around like Negan. That is a caricature of a person. Like no one talks in like a weirdo language and goes around the circle thing, whatever the heck these people are doing. No one lives among, like, it's just like, these are not based in reality. And I think that for almost any show on television, we know they're all fake, but they have to have some basis in reality for us to like latch onto it.
I think that's what we're agreeing on. I mean, the first season, I mean, there were zombies there, but like you got a feeling like Rick's waking up out of a coma and dealing with this, and he was dealing with it in a way that you could picture somebody dealing with it.
Correct.
And that's what I liked about this. And even though the second season was kind of slow, you know, I still feel that these were like real people dealing with the real situation. Now I think the problem is that we've seen the storyline that they're doing now. This is like the third time we've seen it. We saw it 2 times with the governor. You have a bad guy who they have to overcome. Like not even. Right. I mean, it's probably like the 4th or 5th time we've seen this. Like just a horrible person you have to take down. And so Rick is taking him down. And what are they going to do after this?
Right. And we know the show is going to go on for at least a few more seasons. So I don't know, but they need to get it together because it has gotten to the point where I'm like, I don't really need to watch this tonight. Like I can hold this till tomorrow. Whereas I feel like before that wasn't the case. Like you had to watch The Walking Dead the night it aired, or else everyone's going to be talking about it the next day. And now I'm kind of like, I don't really care if people talk about it because it's dumb. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, look, I'm sure. I mean, I know we're going to keep watching it.
We're going to keep watching it. And there are a few other reasons to keep watching it. Like I'm still invested in Carol. Okay, one of the few characters I absolutely am. Melissa McBride I just love her, and I just
feel like her out on an island basically by herself.
Yeah, but that's not
come and visit.
That's not going to last. I just feel like the steps that she's taken are steps that like are true to the character we've always seen, and we've seen such a growth in her character over the 7. Whereas like people like Morgan with this stupid philosophy, I don't even like they just don't do it for me anymore. But you know, I like the Carol and Daryl reunion, and I still want to know if they've ever had sex. So I'm very invested.
Oh, because there was that one point, like I can't remember if it was between season 2. It was like when they first got to the prison, and then they came back for the next season, and they were all like booed up.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah,
But
it was weird.
I'm interested. So yes, I'm gonna keep watching.
All right. Well, me too. Another show that airs on Sunday night that I think we are both high on comparatively is Big Little Lies on HBO. Premiered this past Sunday. Stars Reese Witherspoon, Nicole Kidman, Shailene Woodley, Laura Dern. I mean, like, throw in a big name and they're on the show. Alexander Skarsgård.
Skarsgård. You're thinking of Peter Sarsgaard.
Yes.
And Alexander Skarsgård.
Yes. True Blood and then the other one.
Yeah.
And it's a show about these women in the town of Monterey, California. It centers on a murder. We don't know who has been murdered yet. And it sort of flashes between what happened before the murder and then people talking to the detectives about, what's been going on in the town.
Well, it's basically the first season of The Affair. I mean, that's what it is.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
Except it's not told from the perspective. It's a little different, but yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
but just the murder. The structure is because we didn't know who was killed in The Affair.
Right.
We certainly didn't know who did it. So
yes. So how many episodes have you watched, Vicki?
Oh my God, I've watched 5, and
Okay, I think I've watched 4. So we have to be very careful about what we say because we don't want to spoil anything for anyone. Now, I will say up until 4, and I believe really up until the last episode, like we don't find out who has been murdered.
I still don't know in episode 5.
Okay, yeah. So that is the central mystery. I will say what I like about the show is I don't know. It's hard to like pinpoint exactly what it is about it that I like. It's enjoyable in this dark, seedy way. Because you have these high-powered women who are clear. It's like Mean Girls 30 years later. Is that like accurate? Would you say?
I think it's more mommy wars. You have the stay-at-home moms versus who are Reese Witherspoon and Nicole Kidman, some of whom gave up very lucrative careers to stay at home with their kids, and then you have people like Laura Dern, this hard-charging, like corporate. Venture capitalist, I think she is, who has, actually even the stay-at-home moms have the nannies, but, put their kids. Yeah. So I think both sides are trying to justify the decisions they've made with their lives. And in doing so, they sort of like double down. It's like when you make a decision that, some people don't agree with, and even you have issues like, you still want to go to work, but you want to be there for your kids. Sometimes you just entrench yourself and can't see the other side because doing so would give you this cognitive dissonance. Maybe I shouldn't have made this decision. So I think that is super interesting about this. The murder mystery, I'm always into murder mysteries. I like them, but
me too.
I don't even think like what is really drawing me into the show is Reese Witherspoon and Nicole Kidman's characters. You think because it is such a dark, because it's such a it satirizes, white privilege, the mommy wars and all that kind of stuff. And there is certainly in the beginning with Reese Witherspoon a bit of Tracy Flick about her.
Yes.
So there is that, but
totally.
but both of those characters, I mean, more so Reese Witherspoon, like becomes so deep. Like you didn't think, based on like your first interactions with Reese Witherspoon's character, Madeline, that you would ever sort of feel for her or see her side. And I think she's giving an amazing performance.
Okay, no. I don't want to disagree on the performance. I do think she's giving a great performance. But for me, in the 4 episodes I've watched, I don't feel for her at all. She just turns out to be, in my opinion, not spoiling anything, like, even worse of a person than I thought she was originally. Like before, in the first episode, I just thought she was one of those annoying moms. But then, I don't feel sympathy for her moving forward.
I think that she's giving an amazing performance, and I think that what the performance is doing for me is giving a lot of layers to what could just be a caricature.
Okay, I can agree with that.
Now, the interesting thing I feel about Nicole Kidman's character, Celeste, which you find out, I think in the first episode we could say what her issue is because we see it in the first episode. I don't think it's a spoiler.
No, go ahead.
She has a very difficult relationship with her husband that on the surface looks wonderful and loving, but he is a very controlling man. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, it's in the first episode. So if you don't want to be if you haven't watched it yet, I don't think this is a spoiler at all. But we see that he's much supposed to be much younger than her. In my opinion, they look the same age, but whatever. Yes, and he is not only controlling, but he is abusive.
He's abusive, yes.
The thing about it, though, is that when he abuses her, they then have hot sex after. Like, yes. Every time.
Yes.
Like, it's some sort of weird dynamic that they have going on, which at first you're like, oh, okay, well, this is their thing. Like, he hits her, grabs her, and then they have hot sex, so she's okay with it. But you come to it's easy to realize that, no, she's not okay with it. She does not want to be, attacked physically.
She doesn't really want to be in this dynamic.
No. And I do think that's very interesting. I will say that as the episodes progress, I'm a little less interested in their relationship because to me, that relationship becomes a caricature of how people view abusive relationships. And I don't think the depth is there as we move forward.
Well, it's funny because I've watched one more episode than you, and I do not agree.
Okay.
But I think the one issue I have is that it almost seems like Celeste and Perry are sometimes just a separate story and aren't really fully integrated into all the goings on of this community. And almost like it's a different show. You're watching the Celeste and Perry show when it's about Celeste and Perry. Right. And so I don't think it's like, I don't think it works so great as a whole. I think it's an outlier. And everything about the way it's shot and it just seems kind of different from everything else you're watching.
Yeah. Now
but
something else.
I'm still enjoying it though.
Oh, I'm still enjoying it too. And something else that stands out is Shailene Woodley's character.
Yeah.
She's sort of like the outsider coming in. This is where I got my Mean Girls analogy because she would be like the Katie, the Lindsay Lohan character. She's the outsider coming in with her son. She's a single mom. And she has these weird, they're not flashbacks per se. I think some of them are flashbacks, but I don't know.
Well, some of them are also flash. Well, some of them are flash forwards too. I mean, because there's a bunch of images of her running on. You see her running on the beach, and then you see her in a dress running on the beach, and so I think that's going to flash forward to the night of the murder. Maybe I'm not really sure what's going on.
No, I think. Well, I can't say because then we'll spoil it for people. But I think when she's in the dress, I think that's a flashback.
Oh, to
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
No, we're not saying
we're not saying we didn't spoil it, but I think those
I'm sure this is very helpful for our listeners.
Right. So speaking of the flash forwards and the flashbacks and the people who are telling the story of the town to the detectives, how do you think this show deals with timelines? Do you like it? Do you find it a little off-putting? Is it confusing?
Well, I like it because it is written so well. They have these wonderful one-liners that I just, they have these incredibly, obviously this is written by actual people, very talented people. And so I really enjoy it, but again, it's it works, I think, really well with the Reese Witherspoon storyline a little bit, but it's it's so different than what Nicole Kidman and Celeste is dealing with. I think I still find just Celeste's storyline being the outlier of this show. I think everything else works great together, and I love the nasty mommies and the administrators saying really mean things about everybody because they're mostly true too.
Of course.
Yes.
So I will say that the show is only 7 episodes. So if you haven't watched,
isn't it 8?
Right?
I think it's 8, but they only gave us 7.
Oh, we have. So I thought they only gave us 6, and it was only 7. Whatever it is,
I don't know. I'm sorry.
It's okay, but it's less than 10. And it's an easy watch. It's a really good show. I would highly recommend watching it. And from what I understand, things always can change based on the ratings. But this is it. It's an event series, and this is going to be it. It's based on a book. There was only one book, and this is it. And we should mention that the show is written by David E. Kelly. He wrote every single episode, and I love David E. Kelly.
I was actually surprised at that. I mean, it's I think David O. Kelly is good for what he does, but I mean, I was surprised that he was the one who managed to wrangle this whole thing together because it's really good stuff.
It's not Ally McBeal.
It's not Ally McBeal. Actually, I think you're right, Erin. I'm just looking on the HBO website, and they have 6 episodes, and so they did not give us one. So I think it's only 7 episodes.
7. Okay, so we will definitely talk about Big Little Lies again, maybe around the 4th or 5th episode because a lot of things are revealed. So if you guys have any opinions, tweet us at Remote Podcast and let us know. All right. So our last segment we're going to talk about here is shows that get lost in the shuffle. So a couple of weeks ago, Vicki said to me, have you watched Imposters on Bravo? And I was like, no, I don't really watch the Bravo scripted shows. I don't really like them. But I caught up. So this week, I believe last night was episode 3.
Which actually I didn't watch because I was too busy watching This Is Us and sobbing. I'm sorry.
I mean, really.
Sorry.
So last night was episode 3, which Vicki hasn't watched. So we'll have to go back and I'll have to not spoil
Was it that much of
for
a
you.
game changer?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Things happen.
Right.
Things happen. Imposter is a show about a woman.
Tell me what it's about. Yes.
Yes, it's about a woman who cons this man she'd married and out of all of his money, and then she disappears. And so he goes on this mission to find her, because one day at his door arrives another man claiming to be a member of the FBI. Turns out he has also been conned by this woman and he had married her. And so they sort of team up, and that's like the buddy comedy aspect.
Well, I think can I just say it's also really
yeah.
funny because, I mean, they're also learning to be con men and grifters along the way, which I'm also really enjoying.
I did enjoy that. They're not good at it.
They're not good at it, but I think I think it's enjoyable. I think it's a fun twist on it.
So what I found most amusing about that is that as I told you, I binged Sneaky Pete a couple weeks ago, and he's a con man and a grifter and all that, and he's really good at it. So to see these guys like be totally inept, it was kind of funny. But what we find out is that the woman is part of a con ring. Like there are 3 of them, and they work together in a team, and that's how they con people. And they report, or they get their assignments from someone called the doctor, who we see, Vicki, in episode 3. And that is what you missed.
Well, okay, we don't see it, but I got the impression that there is a rhyme and reason to everybody they've chosen to con. It's not just randomly pick people who have a lot of money.
That is correct. There is a rhyme and reason. We don't fully get the answer to what that is. And I don't know how the 3 people, because we find out in episode 2 that this woman also conned her wife. So she was married to a woman. So now there are 3 people out looking for her. I don't know how those 3 people fit into the grand scheme of things. And I will say that that's probably what I dislike most about the show. I dislike the doctor aspect. Mm-hmm. Like I like when the show is more light and airy. And for me, it's enough drama for them to be looking for this con woman. Mm-hmm. I don't need this doctor thing, whatever is happening. And then something else happens in the 3rd episode that I won't spoil for you, where I'm just like, oh, really? Like, this is where we're going with this? I don't know.
Well, I think I didn't watch Odd Mom Out. What is the one with Lisa Edelstein, which I did enjoy the first season of?
Something's Guide to Divorce.
Yes, The Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce.
Yes.
Which I just think like Bravo knows who it is, knows what it's putting out there. And it's not like, the best show in the world. But I think it feels like a nice niche, and I think more people should know about it. It's fun.
It has the potential to be better than it is. I think that they've tried, and I think you may or may not feel this way after the 3rd episode. I think that they're trying to throw in everything but the kitchen sink, and that is where it will fail. They should just stick to a couple of key plot points. The con, the 3 spouses, and that's it. Like the rest of this stuff, they could totally get rid of it and the show would be just fine.
Okay.
So I'm curious to hear your opinion after watching last night's episode.
Okay, I will check it out.
Okay. Well, before we end the show, it would be, how could we end the show without talking about The Bachelor?
Well, we could, because I have never seen Hometown Dates before, and they were so boring.
Every time.
Oh my God.
Every time. Except in the season where Ben went to JoJo's hometown and her mom swigged from a bottle of wine. Like she picked up the bottle of wine and like just started drinking from it.
Did she do that because that's what she does, or did she do that because she would get her some airtime?
No, I think that's what she does.
Yeah. Okay, so here okay, you all know this is my first full season of The Bachelor. I truly believed by this point that not only would I be able to remember all of their names, which I cannot, Rachel, Corinne, Raven, and the lady from Montreal. Okay, still don't know
Whitney?
her name.
No, that's not her name. Her name's not Whitney.
Don't know. You can't remember either.
Vanessa.
Okay, fine. I also felt like I would be invested in them, and I am not invested in anybody. Aren't you supposed to be invested? Absolutely, maybe because it was too much of the Corinne show the entire time around. So the only thing I'm really invested in is seeing Nick not pick her.
So
but
here's
maybe that's a kind of investment. I don't know.
But we don't know if he doesn't pick her. I will say this, that after watching the hometown dates, my only thought was, how does he not end up with Rachel? Because everything about their interactions, him meeting her family, their conversations, the things that he said about her, it just seems so right. So for me, and I will go back to, I don't know if I've ever said this on the show, I don't think he picks anyone. I think we're going to get to the end and that's going to be it.
Wow.
So
you didn't think that he was feeling Vanessa at all?
I don't like their relationship. Also, I think Vanessa could have potential crazy, jealous girlfriend tendencies.
And you are good all of that.
I can spot crazy miles away. She takes one to know one, as some say. No, I think Vanessa and they don't have chemistry. I think she's in love with the idea of being in love, and he's in love with the idea that she's so pretty. But like, it's not going to work. Also, by the way, she's not French Canadian. Apparently, she is Italian.
Her family's Italian.
Came out of nowhere. I was like, wait, what?
There are Italian people in Montreal. I don't know.
No, I'm sure. I'm just saying.
And we do agree that Raven is a non-starter, right?
No, I think there is potential that he chooses Raven knowing that it's not going to last and it'll just be an easy way to get out. Like what do they have in common? Also, who wants to make out in a swamp?
Who wants to make out on top of a grain silo?
That too. Who wants to live in Huxley, wherever they were?
Yeah, well, they wouldn't be. They'd be living in fancy Wisconsin. I don't know.
No, he lives in Chicago.
Oh, Chicago, okay.
He lives in Chicago. Yeah. All right, so we're heading into the final couple episodes. Oh, we left out the big part at the end, how Andy Dorfman comes back. You were probably like, I don't know who this is.
Yeah, I assumed it was one of the previous women who had rejected him.
It was the first season he was on. He was on Andy's season, and he made it to the final two. They slept together during the overnight dates, and then he revealed that at the Men Tell All, which is like something you don't do. Mm-hmm. It's like Fight Club. You don't talk about it. You have sex in the
you just see it on television
one date, but you don't talk about it. So people are saying like, oh, maybe they get back together, but that's not going to happen.
No, it's ridiculous. I mean, she's just there to probably give some advice to him and then move on. Doesn't that happen?
No, it doesn't. But
did it happen on Unreal? I swear to God, I've seen this happen at some point on some reality show.
Unreal is not a reality show.
Well, you know what I mean.
No, I don't.
I thought that they did it on Unreal because that's what happens on these shows. I don't know. I know I have seen this dynamic happen before.
But not on this show.
Okay. Well,
that usually does not happen. All right, so heading into the last week, we got to wrap it up here. Who do you think will make it to the final three? Go.
I think he's finally got to get rid of Corinne, right? I mean, they
agree.
They have nothing in common. All she wanted to do was shop. I mean, it's ridiculous.
She's like, I'm going to show him a day in the life. And then they went shopping for like $1,000 sweatsuit.
Yeah.
Which is so many things.
And were you disappointed in Raquel? I needed Raquel to bring it, and she did not bring it.
No, Raquel didn't bring it. Raquel, there was a lot of hype around Raquel, and then she was a dud. So, but I did like her dad.
Yeah.
Her dad was entertaining.
Yeah, totally Jersey.
Totally Jersey in Miami.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a whole other dynamic added to it. All right, so that's going to do it for our show this week. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Remote Podcast, at @E_meds, and at Vicki High, VICKIHY. We'll be back next week to talk about many, many things, but most importantly, again, The Bachelor.